This is Jeffrey Tambor, whose comment, we welcome you to Boston. His comment as he was watching, he was so serious that everybody in the studio was laughing, and Jeffrey says, I really am bald.
Well, I never think about it until I look into the camera. You see, when I get up in the morning, I only see this half, you see, and I never think of it.
Hasn't stopped you at all, my friend. Tell us a little bit about Mr. Sunshine, because it is a revolutionary show in the sense that a so-called a blind person is the star. I can't think of any show that has done that on television. Am I wrong?
I think there was a show, a previous, but I can't remember the name of it. But in this vein, it is very revolutionary.
It is indeed.
And we premiered last Friday night, and the response has been tremendous.
People ought to know, incidentally, that a man named Henry Winkler is your executive producer, along with John Rich.
Along with John Rich, and also another executive producer is Gene Reynolds, whom you might know from MASH and Lou Grant. So it's rather a Tiffany group.
How do you prepare, Jeffrey, for a role like this? I mean, you are an extraordinary actor. People have seen you in a lot of things, and I'm not flying it. Justice for All, which we'll have a chance to talk about, you were remarkable in that. How do you prepare for a role like this?
Well, first of all, I've never dealt with the issue of unsighted. So I have a friend, Milton Kutselis, who is directed Butterflies Are Free on Broadway.
Oh, yes.
In which the main character was unsighted, and I called him, and he said, he recommended the Braille Institute. And oddly enough, in Los Angeles, I live about 10 minutes from the Braille Institute, and I began studying over there cane technique and Braille technique, and pretty much just trying to immerse myself in every possible thing I could. I went to cooking classes, and I went to microwave cooking classes, and everything like that, and a lot of interacting with the students, and pretty much on a day-to-day basis for a long time, trying to, because I was very nervous about it. I feel very, even though we are a comedy and we are very entertaining, I feel that I really want to get this down, and it was quite a process for me.
Incidentally, you are using a different term. Am I offending people by using the word blind? Should the proper use be unsighted? Forgive me if I've
No, and you're doing exactly
what
no, I have to tell you, when I first went to the Braille Institute, first of all, I was so nervous, and when I get nervous, I talk like this, and I use big words that I don't understand. And I was so scared, and I was saying, you see, well, you don't see, I mean, not see, unsighted, I mean, and I was very nervous. And I think that's one of the things that we're trying to break through with this show, is that it's about a human being, and it's about a man who is hurt at this point. He's been unsighted or blind for 2 years, and he is a brilliant teacher, very funny man, but in his life he is pushing people away. And he's not getting out, and he's not getting involved, as you see from the clip. Even a date is traumatic for him. Yeah. And so that's where he is right now.
Let me jump a little bit, if I can, to talk about Al Pacino for a moment. That was your first film, I think, Justice for All.
My very first film.
Kind of a man to work with him.
Fantastic. He was so generous with me. He does a lot of research, which I like to do, as we're talking about with Mr. Sunshine. And so we just began playing lawyers, and we just started going all throughout Brooklyn and New York, and going to courts and watching that. Of course, he gets picked off quite a bit, so he would have his various disguises and things like that. But I remember doing a lot of research, and in fact, once we walked right into, in Baltimore, we walked right into a law office and rehearsed one of our scenes in a law office.
Really?
The scene in the lavatory, the laughing scene.
Oh, yes.
We just started doing that. So he likes to rehearse a lot, and he's very, very, very good and very generous.
Let me move to another person, because you've been involved with Hill Street Blues periodically, a regular periodic,
recurring
that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the Hill Street Blues crowd, because that's an ensemble we hear a great deal about. They are a real collectivity. I think about Dan Travanti as being just a terrific man.
Well, it's very interesting from the top down. They're all theater trained, and they're all very committed. And I remember the first year being on that show. There's a very interesting thing that happens usually when you do shows. People just do their stuff and go right to the dressing room. Yeah. They all sort of just stayed around the set and talked. It was like this ensemble theater group, very warm, very generous, and I felt very, very proud, very lucky to be on there. And real people who would talk about things, not showbiz things. Right. I mean, they were very committed to the show and very committed to the writing and very committed to to life.
A quick question. Do you do Mr. Sunshine in front of a live studio audience?
Yes.
That means they have to sit through all your bleeps and blunders and everything, right?
We don't have many bleeps and blunders. We have this genius called John Rich, who is this fantastic director. He directed the Dick Van Dyke Show. He goes all the way back to I Married Joan. This guy is fantastic. And we do it almost nonstop. Really? Yeah.
So they really see a good show then?
They see a very, we rehearse as if it were a play. And we do a show, 2 shows, and in front of an audience, and it's wonderful.
I'll switch gears with you again. My muse tells me there's an 11-year-old girl named Molly in California. Is that true?
Yes, there's an 11-year-old girl, my
Your daughter,
going on 173.
Yeah. Give me a little feeling for her and your relationship with her. Single dad? Are you a single father?
I'm a single father. Yeah. And she's fantastic. She's a very gifted child, and she's reading, and she's got the best education that I think can be, because I did about 15 years of regional theater, just touring all around the country, including Boston, in this little Greenbrier Chevrolet, no plug. And
that Greenbrier Chevrolet,
Greenbrier, it's no longer made. Right. And she just, in her education, she grew up in the theater. She grew up watching rehearsals, and so she has a very sophisticated way, and she loves the theater.
I got one final question. Are you happy? Do I sense excitement now? Are you waiting to see how the reviews and everything fall out? Are tense, apprehensive?
No, it's very interesting. I think that I'm happy simply because I'm happy. This is a very good time in my life, and it has to do with Mr. Sunshine. Also has to do with the work that I'm doing in terms of dealing with this problem. But it's also, I'm 41, and it seems to be, I don't know, I seem to start to get an understanding of what this life is supposed to be like, and I'm enjoying it.
Terrific.
And finally.
We're delighted to have you in Boston. We had lots to talk to you about. You have to come back and visit because you had a start of Loeb Theater, Wilbur Theater here.
Right.
Mr. Sun